The war had gone on for so long that no one could remember how it started. Planets were destroyed, fleets wiped out, and still the fighting never ended. The galaxy had become a graveyard of broken ships drifting in silence. Every council meeting was filled with the same desperate words. "We cannot lose another system," shouted one alien general. His eyes burned red with exhaustion. "Our fleets are dying. Our soldiers are broken. How much longer can we last?" Another council member, her voice trembling, whispered, "Decades. This war has lasted decades, and for what? No side is winning." In the shadows of the chamber, silence fell whenever Earth was mentioned. Humanity had not joined the war. They had not sent fleets or soldiers. They simply watched. No one trusted humans. They were seen as dangerous, unpredictable, too wild to be part of the galaxy's politics. "Never invite Earth," hissed one council elder. "If humans fight, the war will become worse. They don't follow rules. They don't respect limits." But whispers spread in every corner. Some soldiers said they had seen strange ships moving near battlefields, ships marked with the flag of Earth on the front lines. A young alien officer stared out of the viewport of his battered cruiser. His fleet had once been proud. Now it was reduced to broken hulls and dying engines. "Sir," said his crewman, "reports of movement on the far edge." "Unidentified fleet approaching." The officer clenched his jaw. "Another enemy strike?" he asked. But the crew shook his head. "No, sir, their formation. It is strange, tight, perfect, like they already know how this battle will end." The officer's eyes widened as the radar lit up with hundreds of signals. Back in the council chamber, alarms rang as live feeds showed the same thing. A fleet was entering the war, not just any fleet, massive ships, larger than the council had ever built. Moving in silence, a trembling diplomat stood up. "Who are they?" she demanded. The answer came from a young scout captain who had been watching closely. His voice broke with fear and awe. "They are human," gasps echoed across the chamber. The word itself was enough to freeze blood. For centuries, humans had been avoided, kept at the edge of the galaxy, and now, without warning, they had arrived on the battlefield. Comms erupted with confusion. "Identify yourselves," shouted an enemy commander. But the reply was calm, chilling, a voice that carried across every channel. "This is Earth Fleet Command," the human voice said. "Stand down or be destroyed." Laughter broke out in enemy lines. "Humans," one admiral sneered. "The galaxy's scavengers, you think you can scare us?" Yet beneath the laughter, unease grew. The alien officer on the cruiser could not look away from the screens. The human ships didn't charge recklessly. They moved like predators, patient and precise. Every ship slid into position as though rehearsed for years. Weapons glowed faintly, not fired yet, but promising firepower no one had seen before. "They are waiting," whispered the officer. "They want us to strike first." His hands shook as he realized something. The humans had not come to join the war. They had come to end it, inside one of the human warships. Commander Reyes stood tall at the bridge. His crew worked silently, their faces calm but focused. He raised a hand. "Weapons online," he ordered. Lights flickered as massive cannons hummed with power. "Target enemy flagships. Let them know who we are," a young lieutenant asked quietly. "Sir, do we give them a chance to retreat?" Reyes's eyes hardened. They had decades to retreat, he said. Today, the war ends. Back in the council chamber, chaos spread. "This is madness," an elder shouted. "Humans will destroy everything." "They don't understand restraint," another shook his head, voice almost breaking. "Or maybe they understand better than us." Silence followed those words. The screen showed human destroyers cutting through enemy formations like knives through paper. Battleships that had lasted hours against council fleets now exploded in seconds. Each shot was perfect, no waste, no hesitation. The alien officer gripped the console as shockwaves hit his ship. "How?" he muttered. His crew stared in disbelief. "Sir, the humans, they're winning, and not just winning, they're crushing them." The officer leaned back, trembling. "The war is changing." He looked at the enemy's broken lines and whispered, "No, the war is ending." On the human bridge, Commander Reyes watched calmly. Enemy command has lost formation, a crewman reported. Reyes nodded. Push forward. Leave nothing behind. Human Marines prepared boarding pods, their armor gleaming as they loaded weapons. One soldier grinned. They said this war was endless, he muttered. Let's prove them wrong. Within hours, what had been a battlefield of chaos turned into silence. Human warships hovered like giants among wreckage. Enemy fleets scattered, some surrendering, some simply vanishing into the void. The council chamber was silent. Faces pale, one alien leader whispered, "Decades of war, ended in hours." Another voice asked softly, "What will humanity do now?" No one had the answer, but in the hearts of soldiers across the galaxy, one truth echoed. The humans had not been weak. They had not been small. They had been patient, waiting, watching, preparing. And when they finally moved, the war that had drained the galaxy for generations ended in a single day. The whispers grew louder, spreading from ship to ship, planet to planet. The moment humans entered the war, they said, the galaxy's battle ended. The battlefield stretched across the stars, debris of shattered ships drifting in silence. For weeks, the two alien coalitions had fought in this system, each side desperate to claim victory, but neither gaining ground. The void was filled with broken engines, dying signals, and the faint echoes of battles that seemed endless. On one of the alien flagships, Admiral Kor paced across the bridge. His voice thundered as he shouted orders, "Reinforce the left flank." "Don't let them break through," his crew obeyed. But fear showed in their eyes. They were tired, hungry, and hopeless. The war had drained them of everything but duty. Suddenly, an officer at the radar station gasped. "Admiral, we are detecting something unusual." Kor turned sharply. "What is it? Another ambush?" The officer shook his head, confusion clear on his face. "No, sir. It's a fleet, but not one of ours, and not theirs either." His fingers shook as he pulled the image onto the main screen. Dozens of ships appeared in formation at the edge of the system, moving slowly but with frightening precision. The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the sight. The ships were massive, unlike anything they had ever seen. The formation was too perfect, like every move had been practiced for years. "Identify them," Kor demanded, his voice cracked with unease. The officer swallowed hard. I think they are human." Gasps filled the bridge. The word itself carried fear. Stories about humans had spread for centuries. Wild, dangerous, unpredictable, too fierce to be trusted, too clever to control. Admiral Kor's face turned pale. "Humans don't join wars. They watch from the shadows," he muttered. "Why now?" On the Council's private channel, leaders across the galaxy received the same reports. Holograms flickered as diplomats and generals argued. "This cannot be," one shouted. "Earth has stayed neutral for decades," another snapped back. "Neutral? Do you think they were just sitting idle while we bled?" "They were preparing," an elder leaned forward, his voice low and grim. "If humans have come, this war will not last much longer." Meanwhile, on the enemy's side, laughter echoed through their command ships. "Humans?" An admiral scoffed. "So the scavengers finally decided to crawl out of their hole?" His officers chuckled nervously, but not all shared his amusement. A young commander whispered, "Sir, their fleet is larger than we expected. Their ships are heavily armed." The admiral waved it off. "Size means nothing. They are late, and they will burn like the rest across the void." The human fleet moved closer. On the bridge of the lead battleship, Commander Reyes stood in silence. His dark eyes scanned the field. Around him, his crew worked quickly but without panic. Their hands moved with confidence, as if they had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times. "Fleet holding formation," reported a lieutenant. "All systems online. Waiting for your command." Reyes spoke with calm authority. "Open a channel to every frequency. Make sure they all hear us." The communications officer nodded. A soft tone echoed as the channel opened. Then Reyes's voice carried across the stars. "This is Earth Fleet Command," he said. His words were steady, his tone cold. "Stand down, or be destroyed." The message echoed into every ship, ally and enemy alike for a moment. Silence filled the battlefield. Then came the laughter. Enemy admirals mocked the words, calling them arrogant. "Destroy us? and sneered, "We have fought this war for decades, and they think they can end it in hours." Yet even as he spoke, unease spread among his crew. The humans had spoken with no hesitation, no sign of fear, only certainty, on Admiral Cor's ship. His officers shifted uncomfortably. "Sir," one whispered, "what if they mean it?" Cor stared at the screen, at the fleet that moved like a single organism. His voice dropped, "Then the war is already over." The first move came not from the humans, but from the enemy. Furious at being challenged, the coalition ordered their forward ships to fire. Streams of plasma and torpedoes streaked across the void, blazing toward the human fleet. Every eye in the galaxy watched, expecting chaos. But the human fleet did not panic. Their ships shifted in perfect synchronization, forming a defensive wall. Shields flared bright as they absorbed the assault. Not a single human ship broke formation. Commander Reyes raised his hand slowly. "Return fire," he ordered. The silence shattered. Human cannons roared to life. Beams of energy cut through space, striking enemy ships with terrifying precision. 1, 2, 3 enemy battleships exploded in fire within seconds. The battlefield shook as shockwaves rippled outward. Officers across the galaxy froze in disbelief. On the Council's channel, voices erupted. "Impossible. No fleet fires with that kind of accuracy. Those shots. Everyone hit a vital system." A veteran general whispered what no one else wanted to say aloud. "They were waiting for this war. They built their fleet for it. On the enemy command ship. Panic spread. "How are they hitting us so quickly?" shouted an officer. Alarms screamed as fire consumed their flank. "They're predicting our moves before we make them." The Admiral's laughter was gone, replaced with a pale face. "Pull back," he screamed. "Pull back now." But it was too late. Back on Reyes's bridge, his crew watched calmly as enemy ships broke formation. "They're retreating," said a lieutenant. Reyes's lips curved into a cold smile. "Of course they are," he said. "But retreat will not save them." He turned to his gunnery chief. "Target their command ship." In this chaos, the human fleet moved like a blade cutting through water. Enemy lines collapsed, officers shouted, soldiers begged, but the humans pressed forward. Within minutes, the enemy command ship was struck, fire engulfed it, and silence followed. Across the battlefield, stunned whispers spread. "In one strike," said Admiral Cor, unable to look away, "they broke them. In one strike." His officers stared at him. "Fear mixing with awe, sir," one asked. "What do we do?" Cor closed his eyes, his voice heavy with truth. "We watch, and we pray they don't turn on us." In the council chamber, every leader sat frozen. Their war, which had consumed the galaxy for decades, had shifted in a single hour. The humans had arrived, not as allies, not as scavengers, but as the deciding power. And the galaxy realized the truth with a chill. The war would not end because the sides surrendered. It would end because the humans had chosen to end it. The battlefield was no longer balanced. For decades, the two coalitions had fought each other to a bloody standstill. But now the humans were here. Their fleet moved with terrifying precision, like one living creature stretching across the stars. No wasted motion, no hesitation on the alien flagship. Admiral Cor gripped the railing. His voice was low but filled with awe. "Look at them," he muttered. His crew glanced nervously at the screens, where human destroyers glided between enemy lines. Every shot they fired hit perfectly, disabling engines, tearing through shields. "Sir," one officer whispered, "it's like they already know where the enemy will move." Cor nodded grimly. "They're not fighting the battle," he said. "They're controlling it across the void." Enemy commanders screamed through broken comms. "Hold the line, regroup, regroup." But nothing worked. Every time they tried to form a new defense, the humans struck first, cutting them apart before their ships could even finish maneuvering. Panic spread like fire. Some enemy captains abandoned their orders and fled, only to find human cruisers waiting. On the bridge of the human flagship, Commander Reyes stood calm. His eyes never left the battlefield. "Status?" he asked. A lieutenant responded quickly. "All ships holding formation, minimal damage." Another voice chimed in. "Enemy forces collapsing, sir. They're breaking faster than expected. Reyes leaned forward, his tone sharp. No! They're breaking exactly as expected. The human fleet advanced. Layer by layer, destroyers moved first, slipping through the chaos to cripple smaller ships. Behind them, heavy cruisers unleashed storms of fire, blasting apart the enemy's core, and above them all, massive battleships hovered like giants, their cannons glowing with steady power. The sky lit up with explosions, but not a single human ship fell. Aboard one of the enemy command ships, Admiral Serac pounded his fist against the console. How are they doing this? He roared. His staff avoided his eyes. "Sir," one officer stammered, "our weapons are useless. Their shields absorb everything. Their fire is too accurate." "We cannot predict it," Serac snarled. "No fleet is perfect." But his words sounded weak even to himself. Another officer whispered, "Maybe not perfect, sir. Maybe just human." On a smaller alien frigate trapped between human destroyers, Captain Lura's crew screamed as their shields failed. Flames erupted across the decks. "We cannot hold." "Captain," one soldier cried. Lura gritted her teeth. "Then we surrender." "Better surrender than die." She opened her comms. Voice desperate. "Human fleet, we yield. We surrender." For a long moment no answer came. Then a cold voice replied. "Stand down. Power off your weapons. You will not be harmed." Relief flooded her ship. They powered down instantly, back on the human flagship. Reyes watched surrender signals flicker across his display. One by one, enemy ships lowered their banners. His officers looked to him for orders. "Do we accept them, sir?" a young ensign asked. Reyes's expression stayed cold. "Accept, but do not trust," he said. "A cornered beast still bites." The council chamber erupted in chaos. Leaders from every species shouted over one another. "This is impossible. How can humans do this?" "They must have been building for years, hiding their fleets. We underestimated them." "We always underestimated them." One elder leaned back, his face pale. "Decades of war," he said softly. "And the humans are ending it in hours." On the battlefield, the advance never slowed. Human Marines launched boarding pods into crippled enemy ships. Their armor gleamed, their movements swift. Inside one captured vessel, an alien soldier raised his rifle only to find himself staring into the cold eyes of a human Marine. "Drop it," the Marine growled. The alien froze. The weapon slipped from his shaking hands. "Please, we surrender." The Marine's visor reflected fire. "Good choice," he said, dragging the soldier away. Admiral Serac's command ship shuddered as another human strike tore through its hull. "Sir," shouted his engineer, "we cannot hold." "Our engines are failing." Serac's face twisted with rage and fear. "Retreat," he hissed. "We must retreat." But as they turned, 3 human battleships appeared in their path, their cannons glowing with deadly light. Serac stared at them, his voice hollow. "We're finished." Commander Reyes gave a sharp nod. "Fire!" he ordered. The battleships unleashed their fury. The enemy command ship exploded in a massive wave of fire. Its destruction sent shock through the entire battlefield. Enemy fleets faltered, captains screaming in panic, soldiers begging for orders that never came. The war, once thought endless, was unraveling before everyone's eyes on Admiral Corps' bridge. His officers turned to him with fear. "Sir, should we engage them?" one asked. Corps shook his head slowly. "No," he whispered. "Engaging humans is suicide. We fight. We die. And for what? The war is over." His crew looked at him, stunned. "Over." Corps' voice hardened. "Yes, over. The humans have decided it." The council chamber fell silent as live feeds showed the enemy fleets disintegrating. Surrender signals lit up like stars. Human ships continued their advance, unrelenting but precise. They were not slaughtering for pleasure. They were ending the war, clean and final. One counselor whispered, "They are not allies, not saviors. They are executioners." Another replied in a trembling voice, "No, they are something worse. They are humans." As the last enemy strongholds fell, the galaxy understood the truth. Humanity had not entered the war to choose a side. They had entered to finish it, and with every shot, every strike, they proved a terrifying reality. Humans were not just another species. They were the power no one could stop. When the battlefield finally grew quiet, Human warships hovered over the ruins like silent gods. Entire fleets surrendered, enemy banners falling into dust. The galaxy had witnessed a force it could not deny, and the words spread like fire through every channel. Every planet, every frightened whisper. The humans advance, they said. And the galaxy fell. The enemy coalition had once been feared. For decades their fleets had crushed planets and forced civilizations into slavery. But now, in front of humanity's advance, their power was crumbling. Ships that had stood tall for generations were burning, and their admirals were losing control. The war they thought they could control had slipped from their hands. On one of the largest enemy command ships, Admiral Serath watched as red alerts flashed across every screen. Officers shouted over each other, panic filling the air. "Our left flank has collapsed," one screamed. "They're boarding our cruisers," another cried. Serath slammed his fist on the table. "Hold the line," he roared. But even he could hear the tremble in his voice. Moments later, a junior officer's voice broke. "Sir, human Marines have breached Deck 12. The words froze everyone. "Marines? On board that fast?" Seraph's face turned pale. "Seal the bulkheads." "Fight them back," he ordered. His orders came too late. Gunfire echoed down the corridors. Heavy boots thundered through the halls. The humans were inside, on board the human battleship Resolute. Commander Reyes listened to the updates with calm precision. "Deck 12 secured, enemy resistance neutralized," reported a Marine officer over comms. Reyes nodded. "Push forward, take their command center." No hesitation. His voice carried a finality that made his officers exchange uneasy glances. They knew what his words meant. This enemy command ship would not leave the battlefield intact. Inside the corridors of the enemy vessel, human Marines moved like shadows. Their armor gleamed under flashing emergency lights. Weapons raised with cold precision. An alien soldier stumbled into the hall. Raising his weapon with shaking hands, a Marine's voice cut through the noise. "Drop it!" This alien hesitated, his finger twitching before he could fire. 3 shots rang out. The soldier dropped, his weapon clattering against the metal floor. The squad leader spoke calmly. "Advance. Clear every room." Back on the bridge, Admiral Serath could hear the sounds of battle coming closer. The walls shook as explosions tore through nearby decks. He turned to his crew, desperation on his face. "We cannot fall here. Fight them. Push them back." But one officer stared at him with hollow eyes. "Sir," she whispered, "they're unstoppable." "It's only a matter of time," Serath snarled. Cowards. But his words lacked power. He could feel the fear spreading through his men. Across the battlefield, enemy fleets tried to regroup. Ships turned to form defensive lines, but the humans were faster. Destroyers cut into their formations. Cruisers smashed through their defenses, and battleships fired with surgical precision. Every time the enemy tried to stand, they were knocked back twice as hard. On the Council's live feed, leaders watched in silence. "The enemy is breaking," one whispered. "They cannot stand against humans," another voice trembled. "Neither can we, if they ever turn on us, on an enemy frigate." Captain Vera tried to rally her crew. "We must hold. Fight for the coalition," she shouted. But her words fell flat. Her soldiers looked at her with despair. "Captain," one cried, "their Marines are boarding us. We cannot stop them." Suddenly the comms flared. A human voice spoke cold and sharp. "This is Earth Fleet Command. Power down your weapons or be destroyed." Vera's heart pounded. Her crew stared at her, waiting. Finally she whispered, "Shut it down." The weapons went dark, surrender filling the air. "Back on the human flagship," a lieutenant reported. "Multiple enemy ships surrendering, sir. But resistance continues on their command vessels." Commander Reyes's eyes hardened. "Then we crush the command once the head falls. The rest will collapse." His words carried across the bridge like steel. Inside Admiral Serath's command center, alarms wailed louder. The door shook as explosions tore through its locks. "They're here," one officer whispered in terror. A blast filled the room with smoke, and then the humans entered. Marines poured through, rifles aimed, visors glowing with cold light. "Admiral Serath," their leader called out. His voice steady. "You are finished." Serath rose slowly. defiance in his eyes. "You think you've won?" He spat. "You are only one fleet." The Marine took a step closer. "Weapons steady. One fleet is all it takes," he replied. Sarath reached for his sidearm, but before he could draw, a shot rang out. The Admiral collapsed, silence falling over the bridge. The humans moved swiftly, securing the crew. One officer dropped to his knees, begging, "Please." "We surrender," the Marine leader nodded. "Then live, but fight no more." The fall of Sarath's command ship sent shockwaves across the battlefield. Enemy fleets, already collapsing, now broke entirely. Ships turned and fled in every direction, their captains abandoning orders. Some begged for mercy. Others simply powered down in surrender. The once mighty coalition was crumbling in hours. On the Council's grand feed, every leader sat frozen. The live footage of Sarath's flag exploding into fire filled the chamber. A hush spread through the room. Finally, one councillor spoke in a trembling voice. "It is over. The enemy has broken." Another answered grimly, "No, it is not over. This is the beginning. Humanity has shown their power, and nothing will be the same." As silence spread through the stars, the truth became clear to all. The enemy, once feared across the galaxy, had been broken not by decades of war, but by hours of human fury, and in that silence, a whisper began to spread from ship to ship. "World to world, the humans have come," it said, "and nothing can stop them." The council chamber was a place of order, built on centuries of debates and rules. Its great walls echoed with voices of power, but today those voices trembled. The galaxy's leaders sat in silence as the giant screens above them showed live feeds from the battlefield. The enemy coalition, once thought unstoppable, was breaking apart. Ships surrendered, command vessels burned, and human warships advanced without pause. No one in the chamber moved. Their eyes were fixed on the sight of Sarath's flagship exploding into flames. A cloud of fire spread across the void, taking with it the pride of an empire. Finally, one voice broke the silence. It was Councillor Thren, his long fingers tapping nervously on the table. "It cannot be true," he whispered. "One fleet cannot do this. Not even humans." Another councillor, Eldevera, leaned forward, her voice sharp. "You see it with your own eyes, Thren. Humanity has ended in hours, what we could not end in decades." The chamber erupted with voices. Some shouted in anger, others in fear. "They hid their power from us," one accused. "This was a trick. They waited until we were weak. They planned this all along," cried another, at the center of the chamber. High Chancellor Rythar raised his hand. His voice was heavy. "Enough." The noise died instantly. "We are not here to argue," he said. "We are here to understand." His eyes swept across the room. Why did Earth wait until now? Why join the war at this moment? After so much blood has been spilled? No one had an answer. A younger councillor rose slowly. His voice shook as he spoke. "Perhaps they waited because they wanted us to see our weakness," murmurs spread through the chamber. "Perhaps," he continued, "they wanted the galaxy to know what happens when humans decide to act." On the screens, human destroyers moved like predators, boarding enemy ships with ruthless precision. Flames burned across the battlefield, and surrender signals flooded the comms. A council member covered his mouth with his hand. "Look at them," he whispered. "They fight with no hesitation. They strike like they already know the outcome." Another voice answered. "That is what makes them dangerous." The chamber shook with rising fear. Councillor Thren slammed his hand on the table. "We must stop them," he shouted. "If they can destroy the coalition, what will stop them from turning on us?" Eldevera's eyes narrowed. "Stop them? With what? Our fleets? Our armies? Do you not see? They could crush us as easily as they crushed the coalition." The words silenced him. Across the room, whispers spread. "Perhaps they came as saviors," someone suggested weakly. "Perhaps they only want peace." A bitter laugh echoed. "Peace? Do you call this peace? Look at the battlefield. It is slaughter." High Chancellor Rythar raised his voice again. "Enough! Fear blinds us." His hands gripped the edge of his podium. "Yes, humanity is dangerous. Yes, they are powerful. But we must not mistake them for savages. They had every chance to strike us in the past, but they did not. They waited. And perhaps they waited because they did not want this war, until we forced them. The words hung heavy. Was it true? Did humans enter the war because they had no choice, or because they had chosen the perfect moment to show their strength? The council chamber filled with uneasy silence. Suddenly a loud alert rang through the hall. A messenger drone descended, its screen flickering with a live transmission. Every councillor turned their gaze as the image resolved. It was Commander Reyes, standing tall on the bridge of his warship. His eyes cold, his voice steady. "This is Earth Fleet Command," he said. His words echoed through the chamber like thunder. "The war is finished, the coalition is broken. Your council must decide. Will you continue this chaos, or will you accept peace under our terms?" Gasps filled the chamber. A councillor shouted, "They threaten us now." Another muttered, "Peace under their terms." "That is no peace, that is control." The Chancellor's face was pale. "Commander Reyes," he said carefully, "you must understand. The galaxy cannot be ruled by one people." Reyes's reply was calm. "But sharper than any blade, we do not seek to rule your galaxy. We seek to end this war, but if anyone stands in our way, they will fall as quickly as the coalition." His eyes swept across the chamber, as if staring directly into each of their souls. "Do not mistake patience for weakness." The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in silence. No one dared to breathe. "Finally," Councillor Thren whispered. "They are not allies, they are not enemies. They are something else." Elder Vera leaned back. Her eyes haunted. "They are a reminder," she said. "A reminder that humanity decides when wars end." The chamber remained frozen. Each leader felt the same chill. The galaxy they once thought they ruled was no longer theirs. It belonged, in truth, to whoever humanity allowed it to belong to. And the whispers began again, spreading from lips to ears. From the chamber to the corridors, the humans came, they said, and the council watched in fear. The battlefield was silent. A silence so heavy that even the stars seemed to hold their breath. For decades the galaxy had known nothing but war, endless battles and endless losses, but now, in the wake of the human fleet, the war was gone. Wreckage floated like ghosts in the void, burning fires dimmed into fading sparks, and the enemy coalition that once terrified worlds had vanished in hours. On the human flagship Resolute, Commander Reyes stood at the center of the bridge. His officers worked around him, their faces a mixture of exhaustion and awe. "Report," Reyes said calmly. A lieutenant answered quickly. "Enemy forces scattered, most have surrendered. The coalition fleet is broken beyond repair," another voice added. "We're receiving hundreds of surrender signals. And whole sectors are standing down." Reyes's eyes stayed fixed on the display of ruined ships. "And our casualties?" The answer came back almost ashamed. "Minimal, sir." "Far less than expected," the commander nodded, his face unreadable. "The war is over then," he said quietly. But even as the words left his lips, he knew the galaxy would not accept peace so easily. On a surrendered enemy frigate, Captain Vera knelt among her crew. Human Marines stood watch, their rifles pointed but silent. Her crew whispered in disbelief. "It's finished," one muttered. "We fought for decades, and they ended it in a day." Vera closed her eyes. "Not a day," she said softly. "An hour. The humans didn't fight the war. They erased it." Back in the council chamber, silence hung like a blade. Leaders stared at the transmission feeds. Unable to deny what they had seen, Councillor Thren slammed his hand on the table. "We cannot allow this," he shouted. "If humanity can end wars in hours, then who will control them?" Elder Vera's voice cut through the noise, steady but grim. "No one controls them," she said. "That is what you still refuse to understand." High Chancellor Rithar leaned forward. His eyes haunted. "We must choose our next step carefully," he said. "Defy them and we face destruction. Follow them and we lose our pride. What future do we want?" The chamber erupted into arguments again, but deep inside, every leader knew the truth. Choice was an illusion. Humanity had already decided the war's end, and perhaps the fate of the galaxy. On the bridge of the Resolute, an officer approached Reyes cautiously. "Sir, messages are flooding in from across the stars. Some worlds are cheering, Calling us saviors, others are terrified. Calling us conquerors, what should we tell them? Reyes looked at him with calm certainty. Tell them the war is finished, he said. What they call us is their choice. But they will never call us weak again, far from the flagship. Survivors floated in escape pods. Soldiers of the coalition sat in silence, staring at the human ships patrolling the ruins. One soldier whispered, "We were told they were scavengers, animals." "Unfit for war," another replied, his voice broken. "No, they were waiting. They were sharpening their claws while we bled each other dry." The pods sent out surrender codes. No one dared to resist anymore. Meanwhile, on an alien colony that had suffered under the war, families gathered around holoscreens showing the victory. A young child asked, "Mother, who are they?" The woman's voice trembled as she answered, "Humans, the ones who ended the war." The child's eyes widened. "Are they heroes?" The woman hesitated. "Heroes," she whispered. "Perhaps, or perhaps they are something greater, something we cannot yet name." The galaxy shifted in that silence. Enemies who had fought for generations now laid down their arms, not because of treaties, not because of diplomacy, but because of fear and awe. Human warships hovered above, their presence alone enough to enforce peace. Sectors that once raged with battles were now quiet under Earth's shadow. On the Resolute, Reyes stood alone at the viewport. Watching the stars, his second-in-command stepped closer. "Sir, it's over. We've done what no one else could." Reyes did not look away. "No, it is not over," he said softly. "The war may be finished, but now the galaxy will remember. They will fear us. They will question us, and one day they may test us again." The officer swallowed. "And if they do—" Reyes's eyes were hard. "Then they will remember today, and they will know the cost." Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread, from soldiers, from citizens. From council halls and broken fleets, the words carried like fire. "The humans ended the war," they said. "The galaxy bled for decades, and the humans ended it in hours." The silence of victory was not peace. It was a warning. Humanity had shown its strength, and the galaxy would never be the same.